What up, you fluffy bastards? My name is Liquid Blitz, and today we are discussing the topic of female playable soldiers coming to Battlefield 1. I'm going to give you all the sort of Battlefield 1 game facts first, and then like the following 90% of the video is going to be a sort of a history lesson, essentially. All the real history behind the women in World War 1. I'm doing the facts first, so you can leave if you don't want to hear all the history. Not everyone wants a history lesson. But, in my opinion, it's nice to know the real information rather than just mindlessly running around shooting people.
Back up them kills with some knowledge, yo.
Okay, the facts. The second DLC for Battlefield 1 is going to be dropping later this month in June or at the latest July. It's called In the Name of the Tsar, and it's a Russian DLC in the same way that the first DLC was French. So all the weapons and the vehicles, etc. are going to be Russian, or at least used by the Russians, but I'm going to make a separate video on the weapons and vehicles, etc. We know a couple of the weapons so far that are going to be in the DLC, but we don't know all of them, so I'm waiting until they're all confirmed before I make a video about them. Anyway, back to women. DICE recently released the official artwork for the Russian DLC, and here it is on your screens now. If there's one thing DICE do well, it's artwork and wallpapers. As you can see, the soldier featured in the centre is female, and looks totally badass, I might add. From what we've been told, the female soldiers, and I'm quoting this, they will be represented by the Russian scout class. This means you won't simply be able to choose the gender of your soldier. Instead, you will automatically play a female soldier when you use the scout class on the new DLC maps when you're playing on the Russian side. So you will only play a female soldier on the 4 new maps in the second DLC. And that's fine, that's historically accurate, which is what I like. I mean, it's sort of accurate, but I'll cover that more in the history section. Anyway, speaking of history, let's get on it.
Let's historize this shit hard.
Disclaimer, from this point on, I am going to go into detail here, some hardcore detail and in depth. So I understand if you actually want to leave now. If you don't want to have a good old history lesson, leave now. Are you still here? Are you staying? You are awesome if you are staying. I mean, if you leave, you're still awesome, but you're not as awesome as if you stay. So stay. Please stay. I've ordered all of my facts and information in a logical order. So first thing is first. I'm starting in a weird place, but American reporter Bessie Beatty, awesome name, Bessie Beatty estimated that at the height of the women's involvement in World War I, there were 5,000 female volunteers, 5,000 women, serving in a total of 15 female-only formations and units. Of these 15 units, the main big 4 were combat units, and the remaining 11 were communications units. Out of all the formations, only 2 of them fought on the front lines. Number 1, the 1st Russians Women's Battalion of Death, which I'm going to talk about in a lot more detail in a minute, and secondly, the Perm Battalion. The 1st Russian Women's Battalion of Death was literally the first all-female unit formed, and it all started with one woman. Well, the desire to serve was actually quite widespread among women at the time, but the whole thing was sort of kick-started by one woman. Her name was, I'm going to butcher this hard, her name was Maria Bochkareva. Why am I saying that in an Italian accent? Maria Bochkareva. It's Russian. Maria Bochkareva. I like to drink vodka. Sorry if I'm butchering the name. I've actually researched it. I believe it's actually pronounced Bochkareva. Something like that. But I suck. I suck hard. So I'm just going to call her Maria from now on. This on the screen right now, that is Maria Bochkareva. Maria. This is Maria. Now, as you'll find out across the course of the next few minutes, she is a badass. 3 months after the outbreak of World War I, in November 1914, the outbreak of World War I, I believe, was at the end of July. In November, she joined the regular all-male army by getting the personal permission of the Tsar himself, Tsar Nicholas II. Now, just in case, like me, you don't really know what a Tsar is, you might have heard of the term Tsar before. A Tsar, the actual meaning of the word has become sort of blurred over the years, but it's something it's something along the lines of sort of an emperor or king, etc. It's basically a supreme leader. Royalty, pretty much. There was a long line of Tsars for hundreds of years, but the dude I just mentioned, Tsar Nicholas II, was actually the last Tsar. This was because during World War I, there was all sorts of civil unrest and sort of revolution-type shit going on. And pretty much the revolution was successful and he was overthrown, and that was the end of Russian royalty completely. Anyway, now that you know a bit more about the Tsars and the sort of royalty of Russia at the time, let's go back to Maria. In order to join the male army in the first place, she had to go right to the tippy top of the pecking order to get permission to join. I mean, that already should give you a pretty good idea of what sort of person Maria Bochkareva was. Super determined, super brave, and super badass. I mean, to go right to the top, essentially to your king to get permission to join the war, that is some hardcore shit. Anyway, unfortunately, as you can probably imagine, with like one woman joining an army of men, she was unfortunately sort of totally ridiculed and sexually harassed by male soldiers until she sort of proved herself in multiple battles. Anyway, I imagine she sort of got sick of that shit because in May 1917, she petitioned the government to create a battalion of female-only volunteers under her command, and she was successful. The government at the time thought that a female presence would have, and I'm quoting this, significant propaganda value. And they also thought it would sort of revitalise the weary, demoralised men. Keep in mind that this is year 3 in the war at this point, and many, many Russians had already died. So you can't really blame the men for being fucking weary at this point. And on top of these reasons, the government also thought that seeing female soldiers would sort of shame the men back into fighting again. And to be honest, I can imagine that happening. I mean, if you're feeling sort of weary and shit and you don't want to fight anymore, seeing a horde of women leading the way would honestly make me feel a little bit like a pussy. I'm just keeping it 100% honest there. So, Maria became a commander, and she immediately got 2,000 applicants, and I mean straight away. But Maria was strict as balls in her discipline and training, etc., and only 300 of those 2,000 made it into the final battalion. All the women that were rejected from that first battalion, and many, many more women on top of that, they were all inspired as balls. And suddenly the Ministry of War was flooded with hundreds and thousands of letters from women requesting to join the fight. Basically, Maria Bochkareva and the 300. Maria and the 300. Why does that sound familiar? I've just noticed that, Maria and the 300. It's just like the fucking film 300. The King and the 300. Anyway, the point is, Maria's example inspired thousands of other women to join the fight, leading to the formation of the other 14 units, eventually made up of about 5,000 women. And so we've sort of come full circle. This is why women are becoming playable soldiers in Battlefield 1 in the coming Russian DLC. Because it's technically historically accurate. Obviously, with only 5,000 women serving and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of men serving, it's a bit of a stretch to sort of include women in the game. Because technically they were such a tiny part of the overall army. But nevertheless, it is still historically accurate, so it's cool. Now, this is only my guess here, but I believe the reason only the scout class will be female is because these women's battalions used rifles pretty much exclusively, especially Mosin Nagants, which, again, I believe will be the new sniper rifle in the Russian DLC. It's so famous and so widely used, the Mosin Nagant, that putting anything else in the game besides that is just sacrilege. Sacrilege. All hail the Mosin Nagant. So, now you know what led to Russian women fighting in World War I. Let's finish off the video with a bit of extra history, just to round off the history about Maria Bochkareva. She is worth talking about. Over the years fighting, she was seriously wounded twice, and decorated with awards 3 times for bravery. So this woman was one serious fucking soldier. None of this women aren't as tough as men bullshit. All it takes is bravery and determination. I'm well aware that I'm speaking as someone who's never been anywhere even remotely near a war or a battle. I'm in my comfortable computer chair, in my comfortable bedroom, and I sleep in my comfortable bed at night. So I realise that I am completely free to just talk as much bullshit as I want, but what I'm telling you in this video isn't bullshit. Another fact I thought worthy of mention in this video is that she has at least one verified, confirmed bayonet kill of a German soldier. I know bayonets are in sort of Battlefield 1 willy-nilly, but somehow imagining this woman stabbing a dude to death with a real bayonet is somehow sort of scary to me. I don't know why. I suppose it's just a reminder of how desensitizing these games can be sometimes. I mean, can you imagine sort of taking a bayonet to the chest? Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, after all is said and done, you would sort of expect that she would be honoured for all her efforts during World War I. Wrong. Because of the revolution happening in Russia during the war by the Bolsheviks, who were against the Tsars and the current government, Maria and many other people in charge were technically, obviously, on the side of the government. And from what I can tell, many people, especially people in sort of leadership positions, were executed. Maria wasn't actually executed right away. Things were sort of chaotic, to say the least. And firstly, she was detained upon returning to Petrograd, which is where a lot of the women's sort of battalions were actually formed. But then she was actually released, and then later on, separately, she was ordered to take a message to the general of the White Army, and the Bolsheviks then arrested her again for working and conspiring with the White Army, etc., etc. The White Army obviously being loyal to the government and the Tsars. And because of that, she was then scheduled for execution. But don't worry, she was then rescued by a friend who convinced the Bolsheviks to stay her execution, and she then got a passport and actually left the country. And this is where shit gets really crazy. She actually travelled to the United States, where she had a meeting with the president of all people, asking him for sort of help to intervene in Russia because of the revolution and shit. Apparently, she was so sort of passionate in her pleading that the president actually had, quote, had a tear in his eye and said he would do whatever he could to help. Anyway, after that meeting, she then travelled to my country, Great Britain, and guess who she had a meeting with then? She had a meeting with the fucking king! King George V. Now you can sort of see why this woman was so badass and important, meeting Tsars and presidents and fucking kings. By the way, this was still during World War I. This is during the end stages of the war. So, Maria's life is going to have a happy ending, right? Wrong. After her meetings in the US and Britain, she then returned to Russia and tried to create another 2 women's units. Seriously, this fucking woman just never gave up. Anyway, the first unit she tried to put together just failed, and the second one, before she could actually complete it, she was captured again by the Bolsheviks. And then she was unfortunately interrogated, aka tortured, for 4 months, and eventually, after a couple of years, she was executed by shooting. So that's a shitty end to this badass of a woman. I mean, what a load of fucking bollocks. This is seriously one soldier who just deserved the highest of honours. And what did she get? A firing squad. And on that sad note, and to be honest, just annoying note, I'll leave the video there. If you're still here, you are seriously awesome, and I hope you actually enjoyed learning some real history behind Battlefield 1 and World War I. I'm personally looking forward to playing a female Russian scout so I can pretend in my own head, in my own weird bubble, that I am Maria Bochkareva, the brave-ass warrior woman of Russia. Like this video if you liked it, like this video if you didn't like it, and join me next time. My next video is going to be the next superclass, I believe it's superclass number 11, and this one is called Sluggernaut. So make sure you join me next time if you want to play the Sluggernaut.